And you want to respond to that, Katy?
Well, the fact is that if the state of California supports gay marriage, it will invariably affect a public institution like the public schools. In order to be consistent with itself, the state has to say that gay marriage can be taught. Now, they may or may not push it, but it can be, and then if it is, then the parents really have very limited right to say no because they're doing something that the law provides for. And in terms of opting out, again, the parents have to have prior notice. Plus, even on that field trip that you mentioned, Karin, that was done during school hours. On a grassroots level, yes, you've had experts saying that, oh, this is okay, but, on a grassroots level, parents, we want our kids to spend their time learning academics, reading, writing, math, science. We don't want to take school time to have coming out day or going on a field trip that has something to do with a social agenda, not something that has an academic focus to it. So I think it's out of the way for the state to actually put this kind of stuff in, where really education, let's keep it educating our kids on academics. I mean, California is already way behind in our academic levels compared to other states. And we can't afford to spend more time on these social issues and lose focus on what's really important about education.
Okay. Can I just make one comment, which is that I just want to...
we need to actually go into a commercial break, but when we talk about, I'll give you a chance to respond to what Katy said. So let's take a break now, and we'll come back. Welcome back to Community Roundtable. We're discussing about this very hot, controversial proposition that's on the November ballot, which is Proposition 8. The last segment, I promise you, I'm going to give you a minute to respond back to what Katy had said.
Well, I actually just wanted to respond to a specific point about, I totally agree that our schools should be about education, that the priority is to educate children on the academics. It is increasingly harder to get into college. It's increasingly harder to just even get out of high school at this point. So that is clear, and I don't think the yes and no side actually disagree on that. I did want to clarify, though, about the field trip. The point I wanted to make earlier before the commercial break was that in that particular case, while the trip may have taken place during school hours, the students whose parents said they did not want them to go stayed behind, stayed in a classroom, and they had a teacher to go over academics with them. It was only the students whose parents said, I understand what this trip is about, I agree, and they gave permission. So in that case, it was a parental choice that the students would be allowed to go on this trip, and the parents, in those particular cases, they must have felt that it was worth the time, and it was part of the child's education. So I just wanted to clarify that, because I do agree that the children whose parents didn't want them to do that should have been in school, and they were, in fact, in school with a different teacher.
All right. I know education is very important to us Chinese Americans and most Asian Americans here. So, we're using this show is to let the public and let our viewer know that, whatever you believe, you have to get involved. You have to get involved. Go on and vote. Make your choice heard. That's what is really important here. Okay, let's switch gear. Let me start this question with Karin. I know one of the staunchest argument voting against Prop 8 is about the Constitution, California Constitution, protecting about basic human rights, that we do not discriminate against certain type of group of people, right? So would you care to let our viewers know what your argument is?
Sure. So this is an argument that particularly means a lot to me, and it's probably the reason that I'm involved in this battle. As I said earlier, I've been involved on the no side, or in basically supporting gay marriage, but now opposing Prop 8 because of that for about 3 years. And I don't have a personal stake in this issue. I'm going to get married in December, and my husband-to-be and I do not, whatever happens on Election Day, regardless of how we feel, it's not going to affect our ability to get married in late December. So, why I'm coming at this is very much because of what you said. I went to law school. I've given my life and my career to basically be a civil rights lawyer. I work at an organization, the AsianPacific American Legal Center, whose mission is really to protect and promote the rights of not just Asian Americans, but of immigrants, of communities that don't normally have a voice in the larger legal system. And we got into this issue after very careful thought because we looked at our mission as a civil rights organization, our goal to basically ensure, as I said earlier, that minorities or people who don't necessarily have majority political power actually have a right to participate, whether it's a right to vote or a right to be able to immigrate family members over. We work on all these different issues. And we got involved in this because we see this as an extension of our mission. So we feel that if we are pushing for the rights of Asian Americans, of Chinese Americans, other Asian Americans, and we are asking other people, when Wen-Ho Lee was being prosecuted, for example, we asked other people to stand up with the Chinese community and say, you cannot racially profile Chinese people just because people don't like China right now. And we had a really hard time getting other people other than Chinese Americans and some Asian Americans to join us in those types of battles. And so we feel it is our responsibility to be very broad in our understanding of what civil rights is. And so we have gays and lesbians in our community, and we also feel that many of our struggles are similar. And one thing I would say about, two things I would say is that one major reason we oppose Prop 8 is that, yes, what it would do, unlike Prop 22, is to write discrimination not into a statute, one of the thousands of code sections that are in our California laws. What we're considering under Proposition 8 is actually to write discrimination itself into the state constitution. And I said earlier that at both the state and federal level, the Constitution is considered the ultimate document that the judges look to, that the lawmakers look to whenever they pass new laws. Right? We pass new laws every year. Judges decided cases every year. And one of the biggest principles of deciding laws is, does this violate something in our Constitution? Does it violate the freedom of religion? Does it violate the freedom of speech? And in this case, does it violate the right for groups to be protected equally? And because we think that Proposition 8 would write discrimination into the Constitution, it's very hard to take something out of the Constitution. That's why we think it's very important that if people believe in the broader idea of civil rights, that they actually oppose Proposition 8. That's regardless of how you might feel specifically about the issue of gay marriage. I think as a minority community, I feel like I've grown up as a minority. I've always been on the outside. Even in Los Angeles, even though we're 14% of the population, right. We still struggle to be viewed as part of the political power in the county of Los Angeles. I think as minorities, we have to be really careful about taking away a right from another minority group, because it is not that hard to imagine then that other rights would be taken away. And I would just close by saying one thing, which is that, as Asian Americans in this state, Chinese Americans in particular, we have actually had a history of discrimination, including discrimination around marriage. The last time the state of California actually decided to control marriage and who could marry, a lot of those laws were actually targeted at interracial marriages. And in the state of California, many of those were targeted at marriages between Chinese immigrant laborers and other Asians who were here at the time. This would be in the 1880s to about 1950s. Those laws were actually specific about whether Asians could marry whites and who they could marry, whether they could own land, whether they could own property, whether they could become citizens. And so I think that we share a parallel in some ways with the marriage equality struggle right now, because Asian Americans were actually told that they could and could not marry certain people.
Right. Katie, what about these arguments? Being Chinese American and minority in this great country of America.
Well,